all of your students have never said anything but that Mr. Pressler gives every moment he has when he's in town.
I always do, and because it has not become my profession. I must say that it has been my interest, my love, and so that when we are in a lesson together, it's a very intensive hour that is not padded getting through the time. And I have transferred it now also into chamber music, naturally, since I would like to share those experiences and to have these workshops. And this summer was absolutely wonderful. I had 80 people in this workshop, and a trio from England, a pianist from Switzerland, etc. And for a week of 6 hours a day, but 6 hours that are burning. But I must admit, after the week was over, I felt drained.
Even you.
I needed a day to get to Burlington, to get where I had another class, to regain my strength. Usually a night is enough, but there I needed a day.
Well, tell me, don't you feel that chamber music is still given short shrift in music curriculums, even because
you're right. To my dismay, it has been given short shrift. We are changing it now. We have just appointed in Bloomington. We have just appointed a person, and a very good one, who was the first violinist of the Borodin Quartet. And right now the name escapes me. A very fine one who will be the coordinator of chamber music. Yes, it has been given short shrift because, as I told you, generally it was always thought it's good for you and you should do it, but there was no way in which one would formally take it up. And then people always used to say, you went into chamber music because you couldn't do the other. And so what did you have?
That's fatal.
It was fatal. What you had in trios pianists that couldn't play, and they could play, but couldn't play very well their music. So how could they play very well the chamber music? And of course, then at that point, there were not that many concerts. You did have marvelous groups. You had a Budapest Quartet, Florenzales. You had wonderful players, London String Quartet, and they were successful. And so slowly it sank in that you could make quartets, but trios up to that point, or you had three very famous people getting together for a one-night stand or a few weeks, and it was wonderful to hear them play, but it wasn't a group. It wasn't
Rubinstein and Gabigorski and
yes, which was phenomenal. I mean, to hear those three play, just to tune those three would be sufficient. There was a trio before then, and today I still love and adore hearing them. That was Thibaut Courteau in Casals, which were just divine in their playing and their phrasing and the beauty of their playing, individual playing. And they did play together a little bit more than the others. They would stay for a month or so together. It still was no trio playing in the sense that one has a quartet, or in the sense that the Beaux-Arts plays trio, which is after rubbing the stones, a permanent group that will take a work, will practice, rehearse, redo it, shape it, so that three inputs are greater. But the one output of the trio is greater than the three put in. The sum of the total will become greater, because that piece has become one idea. That's difficult. That's very difficult to do, and to have done it, and now being able to say, having done it for 26 years, 26 intensive years, 26, it is not a matter that comes overnight, and it's also a matter of attitude. And so therefore, when you said chamber music didn't have a place, it didn't. When we started to play trios, they would always say, no, we'll take a quartet, but a trio is a poor man's piano concerto, because you've got a small orchestra, very small orchestra.
Board of directors couldn't
raise enough money. Or it was one, and I must say, I still remember that as a most wonderful story. It's an accompanist for with two people, you know. So
Yes.
or one or the other. And I remember once coming.
But you still see this, you know, so and so they played a Beethoven sonata and the
Of course,
accompanist.
Must so and so, yeah. And they very often they play that way, which
Yes.
is bad. You see, very often it is played like an accompaniment. Or you used to have the great violinists who would play a Beethoven sonata, and not a Szigeti, but a great violinist, and the pianist would have the piano closed, and he would be an accompaniment.
Yeah.
And then you would hear this Frühling sonata, ya-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee, come out of the violin, and the big, great solo. Now, naturally, no one liked the sonata very much that way. You liked the violin playing, or you liked the cello playing, but you didn't like the Beethoven, who is greater than any of the great artists playing, of the greatest artists. No matter who you call. They are small, maybe less small than others, but yet the greatest was and is and will be the master, the genius, a Schubert, a Beethoven, a Brahms, a Mozart, and you name them, Schumann, even the smaller ones, the so-called smaller ones, Grieg, Dvorak. Dvorak is not a smaller one really, but let's say Smetana, yes, all those, they are great, they are wonderful, they are sustaining, they have that power of creation, which is the strongest power of them all, which is the power that a teacher or a performer must enhance, must find.
One thing which I appreciate about the Beaux-Arts trio is that your trio, or your trio, but the trio has given the public a chance which they've never had. We've been able to hear great artists, Rubinstein and yourself, play solo works for 25, 50 years, and to hear what happens after 50 years. But we don't hear the Schubert trio, the Ravel trio, after 25 years.
That's
It's the same.
That's true.
You know?
I'm glad you say that. That's very true, because you could even ask the other question that I have been often asked, and which is very apropos, is how come you don't get tired of the piece after playing it so many years? Because it takes all your life and more to dig into the depths of those pieces. I mean, we are no Ravels, we are no Schuberts, so we dig and we find riches. It's true, you get older, you lose in one aspect. The aspect of, how shall I say, the show-off aspect. You don't even walk in and say, no, let me show you how I do it. No, you don't do that anymore. As much, let's say. You do it somewhat, but not as much. But what you really do is, let me share with you that which I found, and which is the more important, the beauty, the depth, that which is just stunning, that's which keeps one young, which keeps one alive, which keeps one wanting to do more, which keeps one thirsty and hungry all the time. You never get enough. And so it is wonderful to do that. I remember our first recordings of the Beethoven trios, and now we redo it. Now it's interesting. It's more than interesting. It just is in some respects so rewarding to see that the years have accumulated an insight into those masterworks.
Do you find that your rehearsals, if you even, I don't know if you would call them rehearsals, but when you practice with the other musicians in the trio, do you really rehearse anymore?
Oh, indeed. Oh, indeed. Oh, and how? It's bloody.
Yes.
Oh,
Still.
and oh, yes, of course. And we do, you see, someone finds something or thinks he has found something, and maybe he has. And the others object. And always one can say, we have done it 25 years this way, why change now? And then they say, you have done it for 25 years, you must change now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, always both sides are possible. No, the rehearsals are vital, and are very, of course we can sit down and play a piece without rehearsals. Of course, I mean, I personally can sit down and play a quintet without rehearsals. But what is that? That's, now, I even have difficulty now when I play a Mozart concerto with an orchestra. If the tutti is not in the way I see the concerto, or if the conductor doesn't convince me to play it according to which way he sees it, I feel at a loss. I can't. Before I used to sit and play with an orchestra and say, I don't care, you go to your church, I go to my church. After all, now comes my solo. But if it is not coherent, if it's not organic, if it's not built, it's not meaningful. One piece, one great piece, and it's not anymore the engagement. It's not anymore that one fee that I have to make a living from. So therefore, anything goes. You get it out. No, it's not. It's the desire to want to play.
Yes. You made me want to tell you the story of Schnabel.
Yes.
Who this common situation happened that he had told a student one week one bar was to be this way and the next week this way, and the student said, Professor Schnabel, but last week you said this, and he said, my God, I've changed, haven't you?
No, that's all right. With a student, he will always be right. But you didn't read, obviously, the autobiography of Flesch, Karl Flesch.
No.
Oh, where they had a trio, Flesch and Schnabel and Becker. That was the first really working trio, and of course Flesch was a very opinionated man too.
Yes.
And
they edited the Mozart sonatas together.
They edited Mozart sonatas together. Yes, very nice, by the way. But Flesch was a very famous professor, and so was Hugo Becker. But Schnabel was irrepressible, and in one rehearsal he was just insisting that this phrase must go there. It's not possible. And Flesch fought him, and Becker fought, but he couldn't be stopped. It had to be that way, so they agreed. And they met the next rehearsal, and they played that way, and Schnabel said, my God, how can you play it that way? And they said, but you insisted. Oh, so he said, but I made progress in the meantime. And so that's true. That happens to be true, that on certain occasions you hear things and you are convinced it must go that way. And then you hear it back and you think, oh my God. Like the opposite. You hear sometimes a tape of yourself and you like it immensely, which happens seldom. Mostly you don't like it. But let's say you like it immensely and you try to imitate yourself. Horrible. It's miserable. It's fatal, yes? It's always, the general idea is there, the 90%. The 10% is the matter of inspiration, of the moment. Now,
which a recording may or may not capture.
Yeah, we try. We try to play performances and recording to get the inspiration of that day, of that moment, of that year, of that outlook, yes? Now, what is inspiration? Could ask me that. And I think that's a vital question.
Where do you find it?
That's it. Where does it come from? I don't know. It comes from the sum of all your experience. I don't know which button you press, but there is a certain button that you press and that all of a sudden illuminates, clarifies, connects, beautifies. The sound takes on a sheen that you try but not always have, and you don't know why. And all of a sudden connections in phrases that you didn't even know they existed before. It touches some of your emotions, and in turn you can touch some of the listener's emotion that you didn't even know you had. All of a sudden you see in a Schubert a phrase. It seems so obvious, so clear, so deep, so warm. Now that is what I call inspiration. Now, how do you press that button? You always try to press the button. And you think you have to be rested in order to play it. No. It happens that sometimes you are not rested, and you find it. It's sometimes you are rested. It's sometimes you are hungry. Sometimes you eat. I don't know, and no one does. That is one of the reasons. Once you can play, it's one of the reasons that you are always worried. It's not anymore that you're worried you will be playing badly, or you will. One of the greatest worries of a pianist to forget, or that passage will not come out. That happens to be smaller worries. It is the worry that when you play well, that is one thing. But when it is inspired, it takes on a dimension. It takes on that dimension that you start flying. That's what you are looking for. and how seldom one has it. How very seldom. So all the preparations that go into that how pyramid,
It must be there.
it starts.
also.
Oh yes, I mean that it is prepared well instrumentally, that the style is known to you, that as a musician you know where a phrase comes from and goes to, that a sentence, ein Satz, is really from the beginning to the end, that you lead it, that it has the logic that the composition is. But then, where is the distillation that is personal, that is you, that has accumulated all that and becomes you who speaks these great works, and they become yours? How marvelous that is. You know, that's a unique feeling, and I think very often I say to my students, I'm jealous of myself. I can, and they should be too, I can converse with those masters daily, continuously, and can try to raise my level as a person, as a musician, as a player, as a teacher, with them, through them.
Do you find that you can produce the inspiration with them? I mean, with your students, do you?
I do feel from time to time. I mean, that's also.
Or is that something you
that's-
can't touch?
I mean, yes, you can. Of course, you do. I do. I do very much. That I think that seems to me really the most important aspect of the teacher. It's not just the facts, which can be. You have to teach naturally, but this can be made known many times. But the ability to force, to pull, to cajole, to try, to get inspiration out of them through the same ways that you do it with yourself. And very often I find that a lesson can become an experience for yourself as well as for the students, that because you feel inspired to hear that piece, it touches you at that particular point. Now, here, the student can be wonderful or can be not that great, but if he's receptive and if he's wide open, that his soul as well as his mind is open, then it's happening to both of you again, that you will have that, or in a class situation. It can
You
happen.
use the piano classes.
No, it's not so much in a piano class. I must say, there's more. If it's in a piano class, it happens not generally in my classes, because I use my classes for performances more.
Yes.
But to teach, I use the chamber music class when I teach. It can happen, or a piano class that I teach sometimes. Not so much with my students. With my students, it happens more or less in our studio, because we use the performance, the class as performance. How should I say? Laboratory. Practice.
Yes.
So that I use it, that they perform, we speak about general things. I use it for other students to listen, and therefore become teachers.
May I then move
Yes.
a little bit and ask you a more specific question, a practical question? When you begin with a student, well, first of all, how do you decide about a student? They compete for you. They do. More people want to study with you than probably you have the time.
Yes, that's true.
How do you choose? I'm sure
No,
I sense that it's difficult.
it's very difficult.
mean-
And if you ask me if I made no mistakes in choosing, I will tell you I made plenty of them,
Yeah.
and I still do. If you ask me what I look for, then I will say, and in a short audition, that's very hard
Yes.
to find. Of course, by experiences, you learned a little bit more about it. I look for coordination, that the hands are good. I look for intelligence, someone who will understand what you're talking about. And then I look for that unspecific quality, which is called character. Because I know that you can't be anything with just wonderful hands, marvelous memory. You'll be just a playing machine. It doesn't amount.